Okay. So I'll go first, and then of course, anybody that I mentioned, just kind of signal me or jump in if there's something that you wanted to share with the group. I think really the main thing that I want to talk about tonight, and I also just want to leave room because we do have some new people. Also, just kind of want to leave room generally for people to just to be able to kind of ask anything that's on their mind or offer anything that's on their mind. I think the thing that I do just want to make sure that I mention is this morning our weekly email went out, and that was an announcement email. So we rotate bi-weekly between a longer email called the wire or the list if you're not a member, and a shorter email that just kind of serves to highlight different announcements. And so the main thing that I think that I just want to make sure everyone's attuned to tonight, we've talked about this before, but it's our Ujima Resident and Worker Care Fund. So this morning we just put out a reminder about that. It seemed appropriate. I would say that that is our statement, so to speak. So I think a few of you in kind of joining us for the first time tonight, for example, have said you've heard about Ujima, so you've heard about the work. And I think John, you said this, just in what is compelling to you about Ujima, and why you are a super supporter, as am I. I think, and I'll just speak for myself. I see Ujima as a long-term solution, not but a long-term solution to many of the conversations that we're having in this moment. And so for me, what is important is that we have been working and that we continue to work. And so one of the things I wanted to make sure people did know is just with regards to material resources, we know that that's still a need. And so that was something that was surfaced earlier with the pandemic that's still ongoing. So what was surfaced was material needs that have been largely unmet by existing systems. And so we saw how mutual aid really filled a lot of those holes. And those needs continue. And so we just wanted to make sure that our members, the businesses in our network, the workers of the businesses in our network, knew that this resource is here. It has not gone away. And so if you're a voting member of Ujima, if you work at a business that's in our alliance or at a business that's on the Businesses We Love list, this resource is available for you if you haven't had a chance to tap it yet. So continues to be important, I think, in all of these conversations. So I think that's the main thing I just want to make sure I bring to everyone's attention. And as I said, that's what went out in our email this morning. And so I'll pause for any questions, comments. It could be about the Care Fund, but also just kind of ready to take any questions and comments in general. And of course, anybody on the team, again, just kind of jump in if there's something you want to say. I've gotten a private question about the gala, so I'll mention that. So we have an online fundraiser called, it's funny, I say both pronunciations. So I say gala when it's the singular word, but what I'm about to say is gala virtuale. So when it's accompanied with other words, I change the pronunciation. And just a little bit of background on this. There's an organization called Union Capital Boston. If you're not familiar with it, it's another local org. And what they do is they kind of encourage, I shouldn't say kind of, they do. They encourage civic engagement with a rewards system. And so the reward systems has different tiers, where the reward is essentially cash in the form of a gift card to families. If people are familiar with Family Independence Initiative, FII, kind of one of the principles of that organization, just like with FII, is that families are able to craft solutions for themselves. And so entities that are looking to be supportive, what they should be doing is supporting the resources that families themselves are determining that they want. So UCB does this, as I said, by distributing the gift cards that gives cash to families, and those families do with that cash what they want to do. So the idea is families are not having solutions that are prescribed to them. Last year, we formed a collaboration that I think is pretty neat and unique, which is and they have, I want to say bronze, silver, gold is the way their reward systems work. At their silver level, their members, and they're also member-based organization, their members have the option to say, I'll take the cash, I'll take a $75 Visa gift card, or instead of giving me a $75 Visa gift card, please give me a $25 Visa gift card, and please make a $50 investment, that's the minimum investment, in the Ujima fund on my behalf. And so far through this collaboration, 15 members of Union Capital Boston have invested in the Ujima fund. And so I think what's pretty compelling about this collaboration is just seeing that there are some people and some families, if given an option and access to certain types of wealth building vehicles, for example, will say yes, please make this accessible to me. And so we then kind of, based on that collaboration, we continue to be in conversation around that collaboration. That collaboration is ongoing, it continues. And so I think even probably this month, maybe between 2 and 4 UCB members have said, yes, please make an investment in the Ujima fund on my behalf. So we last year said, let's kind of join together on UCB's online fundraiser. And this was actually something UCB had done previously outside of the pandemic. And it was just kind of a cheeky thing that they had done in the past. It was kind of tongue in cheek, kind of poking fun at kind of the real life, in-person, elaborate galas. And when I learned about the online gala, I actually thought it was pretty brilliant. And so last year we said, well, let's team up on it next year. And so we have done so. Definitely circumstances are much changed, but we are continuing. And so that gala is on Thursday, June 25th at 7 p.m. In the past, it has been on Facebook Live. We are going to finalize what the actual platform will be, just because there have been some other platforms that have emerged that we may make use of. But right now you can find the invite on Facebook. Claudia has just posted a website where you can find a landing page for the event. It's pretty gnarly. And actually, I think probably what I'll do is I'll share my screen so that you can just so that you can have a look at it. Okay, my computer is doing things I didn't expect. Okay, here we go. So I'm gonna share my screen just so you can see the gnarliness designed by Sierra here. So you can kind of move some stuff around here. If you click on our logo, this takes you to our website where you can learn about us. If you click on Union Capital Boston's logo, it takes you to their website where you can learn about them. Sheena Collier is the MC for the night. You can also go to this page to learn a little bit more about the fundraiser. This will also take you to our business. If you click on Spread the News, it'll take you to some sample social media piece to help spread the word. And then here, just some principles that we just want to highlight, that we want to say we're uplifting always with our work, and we'll continue, and we'll emphasize it that night. But you see, we have solidarity, another system is necessary, democracy. So that's, again, the website is there, necessary.system/Gala Virtuale, and it's in the chat. So it out. The theme is The Wiz, so that's where that gnarliness is coming from. So yeah, I think Angel says, great job, Sierra. Yeah, fantastic. So yeah, we hope to see you there. If you can, we hope you purchase a ticket. If not, you can still join us. As I said, if we do Facebook Live or whatever platform we use, you could still join us. So just I'm pausing for any additional questions, comments, or for any other Ujima team members to jump in and talk about whatever's on their minds.
I'll jump in. Somebody else is trying to.
All right, so it looks like we have something from Rachel and then Jenny. Rachel?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, I missed something, the FII you mentioned.
Oh, yes. So that is Family Independence Initiative, and I'll put it in the chat.
Okay.
Yep.
And you just mentioned it, sorry, this is just for the notes, because it has a similar structure to Union Capital Boston?
Yeah, so Union Capital Boston, as I understand it, I could be mistaken, but as I understand it, it's a bit of a spinoff of Family Independence Initiative.
Okay, thank you.
But the commonality being, the premise being kind of families, communities know what it is that they want and need.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Jenny?
Back to jumping. Thank you, Rachel, for taking notes. We appreciate you. So again, I'm Jenny. I'm the Business Alliance coach. And there's two things that I really wanted to lift up. The first is, I think we all know that the past month, the past week has been pretty heavy. And one of the things that we've been doing as Boston Ujima since March, honestly, has been in-reach. And I think a lot of teams, please take the time to go through in-reach. It's actually super powerful. I know as the Business Alliance coach, I've had the opportunity to talk with business owners for the past few weeks, and I've learned a lot. I've listened, and sometimes it's just that, just hearing someone call you to say, hey, I'm just concerned about you as a person and your business, and we wanted to let you know that we're here, and any resources that we're aware of, we're sending out to you. I feel like a lot of you guys are plugging in or have been plugged in, so you know that we have a wealth of information that's coming our way as Boston Ujima Project. So I encourage you to get out of your comfort zone, and we have a script to help you. Pompey did a phenomenal job creating a script, and we're more than willing to just someone who's joined your team or signed up to join arts and cultural team or podcast team, take the time to reach out to them, say, hey, how are you? Have a conversation. You were interested in this team, plug in, because as you guys can see, just being in this Zoom chat, we've gained energy from talking to one another, from hearing how each of us are processing and seeking peace and energy. So that's one. I'm calling everybody out. Let's do in-reach. Let's have human connection in the midst of all of this, because human connection is important. So that's number one. And then two, this is, I thought it would be perfect to do this since the arts and cultural team is meeting today, so there's a call to artists by Settle. Settle is the first company that we've invested a large 100K with. We've done the first 50K. Yay. If you guys can't see, I'm a round of applause kind of gal. I love collective wins. So Laura, who's not with us right now, she did send out a sheet, and I think I can send that in, where it's a call for artists, and they are attempting to design, they would like a design for their box truck So it's a both sides, 16 feet by 8 feet high, and a rear roll-up door of 8 feet wide by 8 feet tall. So the deadline to submit a visual to wrap their box truck is June 10th, so next Wednesday. There is a thank you prize of $500 that will be awarded to the local artist who submits the design that's chosen by Settle, and co-op members for the truck. So I think it's an awesome opportunity to see the artists share their work. It would be awesome if it's an artist associated with Ujima, because, you know, I'm team Ujima all the way. And I just think it's a way for us. I think there's a lot of artists here that just would like to see their work shared positively in the world. So I will send out this information, but again, the deadline to submit an idea is next Wednesday, June 10th. And it needs to be sent to submit a high resolution design, PDF, AI, or APS format preferred, to art@settle.coop.
Is there a link, Jenny?
Yes.
Is there a link to that application form or that you can throw in the chat?
Let me see. Nia, I might have to send it to you because, you know, Bertha doesn't like to do too much work.
Okay, yeah, and I thank you for bringing that up though, Jenny, because yeah, I recall seeing that email. So it's a reminder that we should circulate it. So we will definitely put it up on social. And
I'm
then, all right,
for
you're doing it now? Okay, so I'm gonna check my email. It's gonna be a couple of minutes before it lands in my box.
It's sent, but it's at anyone that's giving a design, it's going to art, A-R-T, at settle.coop. So reach out to the artists in your community. Let's see if we can have someone win and get the thank you prize of $500. That'd be awesome. And that's it for me.
I wanted to hop in for a second and kind of just like jump off some of the things that have been shared and just sort of my experience within seeing people and the way that they're moving right now. And I spoke on that a little bit earlier too. There's a lot of just sort of need for channeling a lot of this different energy that everyone has. And there's a lot of sense of urgency that I'm seeing in terms of just like what people are putting out on social media and just sort of, you know, outreach and asks and inquiries about resources that I've received. And I really feel like it's a wonderful time considering the amount of literacy that's out there on the sustainability of what sort of this movement is and the ways in which we move. So it's a really wonderful time to kind of uplift and celebrate organizations that we're a part of and that we feel in commune with. So redistributing a lot of the social media is one of the primary forms of that. And I think it's not just a payoff or benefit for organizations, it's also a way for people to feel like they have a space for that energy. Not everybody has the capacity to be out in the streets. There's a lot of anxiety surrounding that right now. So it's important to be able to give people that opportunity to channel what they're feeling. And yeah, so much appreciation for everybody that's here tonight, and just yeah, thank you for everything, and just help us amplify our different initiatives that are going on. And I feel like I sound so thirsty right now, but it's like coming from a place of like seeing that need for people and just not knowing what to do with it. If they're new to the fight or whatever, it's a good time where they're open to that vulnerability of understanding the groundwork that so many people that are present in this meeting have done, and a good space to open it up to people. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually appreciate that, Claudia. So there's, I shared a post from Oscar Abello, who's a writer with Next City, who, for me, just as far as journalists go, he's tops. He's pretty up there, and he's covered Ujima before. Oh, Jenny said I beat her to it. But he had a really great post, I think, last week where, he just said, Black people have been kind of doing a lot of work to create a different world. That's not new work. And he just kind of just laid out a series of pieces that he's done about different types of work. And I thought it was great, just to your point, Claudia, as a post where people could kind of read and say, okay, here's a post where people are talking about procurement, or here's a post where someone's formed a particular type of company. Here's a post where someone has been thinking about wealth management differently. So he just had a list of stuff that he highlighted, and I think they are all articles that he's written. But I shared that on Ujima's page, and I shared that in a few groups on Facebook. So if you're on Facebook, I do highly recommend you find that post. So again, that's Oscar Abello, Abello. He's with Next City. And I saved it for myself because most of the initiatives he mentioned I know, but there were a couple that I said, oh, I've got to go back and read these articles to learn about these. And I think it's a great and there are a lot of great resources being shared right now. So again, definitely not saying anything definitive about any one thing or another, but I think it is a great resource among others to pass along to people. To Claudia's point, if people are assessing what their role is right now, along with what they have the capacity to do, and I think that capacity would include skill set and passion. And so I think that there's definitely something among that list, as well as others, that they could probably say, I want to tap into it. And it's not just in Boston. He covers stories all over the US. And when I shared it on my personal page, I also just encourage people to try to find similar initiatives where they are. And then, of course, something that Ujima does often is we talk with other communities who want to start Ujima where they are. And so the offer was also, if you're in a locale where you aren't seeing just anything like this happening where you are, definitely reach out to us. We actually may know who the people are where you are, and then if there isn't anyone, we'd definitely be willing to help you start to think about how you get something going where you are. So appreciate that, Claudia, because I've been in a lot of rooms where a lot of people have been saying this feels different, and I do think a lot of moments recently have been feeling different, and I think they actually have been, and I think that is progress, and so I think what we've been kind of experiencing, unfortunately at great cost of the past few cycles, has been also just great forward movement at the same time.
Yeah, and part of that is taking some of the barrier away for people. I was in so I don't know how many of you know this, but I'm an archivist, so I work in a library. And we had a meeting earlier today where, we were sort of discussing some of the topics at hand, and, people had questions about it. And I mean, like, even librarians are like, what do we do? What are the resources? And it's like, I think I chuckled a bit because it was like, it's not news that like people read at libraries, like read. Like I think people just like need to feel like it's okay to read, or okay to like discover and investigate on their own. Like, I mean, I am an archivist. I've gone to like, library school, and I still am intimidated in a library. I mean, actually, I think it kind of made it worse in a way, because I'm like, oh, now I'm supposed to definitely know where I'm supposed to, and like, I should know everything about the Dewey Decimal System or whatever, but I don't. And I'm an archivist, which is a little bit different, but yeah, just giving people the space to like get out of their own heads and be vulnerable and feel like it's okay for them to ask questions and look at different things, to the correct people though, obviously. And Black Librarians on Instagram has really great homework prompts for people. That's really great. And some of them are like, you can repost or retweet or, build all this content around Martin Luther King Jr. But it's also important to investigate other people in the civil rights movement, and build a deeper understanding of who else is part of that momentum, including, all of the women that are involved. So, yeah.
Great, thank you, Claudia. And I see that Anne has, I believe, Anne, you're saying you have something to share?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to, if there's time for it. And I'm sorry I can't.
Oh,
stay
absolutely.
past 7:30, but just kind of to, as a white woman, say I'm really sorry for, the legacy of racism and the existence of it. And I'm really grateful. I did the course White People Challenging Racism, Moving from Talk to Action, that CCI offers. And then I learned about Surge about the same time. This was a couple years ago. And then yesterday, and I was been at the 3 big protests, one Friday at Peters Park, and the one Sunday from Nubian Square to the Common, and the one last night in Franklin Park. And I find it encouraging. I mean, we have so much work to do, and the structural changes that have to happen. And so that's why I'm like so grateful that Ujima is doing the work you are, because this is such a huge foundational part of what has to change. But the organizers of yesterday's protest asked Surge if they would be able to hold an affinity space for white people that weren't able to go in person to Franklin Park. And I think it was like 48 hours this ask was made. It was responded to. I was sending it out like to different networks, Boston Public School Families and the UU Church and Mothers Out Front Mobilizing for a Livable Climate that I'm part of. And other people were, and over 1,000 folks registered like to get the Zoom link to try and be part of that. And then I also want to lift up and appreciate what someone said in the very beginning, that you're trying to figure out like what you need to do and what you can do in this space and time. Because I feel like a sense of panic almost, like so many people are being harmed, and with the COVID crisis and being a nurse who knows like the injustices of our profit-driven healthcare system and how that is, so laid bare now with COVID, but it was there before COVID, but that I'm only one person. and that I want to be in solidarity. And so I feel kind of ashamed that I'm kind of ignorant about, does Surge have an official relationship with Ujima? I don't know that. I know, I think, did you speak, Mia, at CCI's fundraiser in Cambridge last year? Yeah, you were an awardee maybe. So I just, I don't want to spread myself too thin, but I want to be part of building relationships. And it also nurtures me through this really hard time to have these relationships and connect the dots and weave the tapestry and make it so strong, fierce love. So I just wanted to share those things with you all.
Thank you so much, Anne. And yes, and we've been in conversation with Serge about the different ways we can be in relationship with each other. So we did a reparations conversation with Serge. I think this was last year. And I think it was intended to be a kind of a precursor to thinking about investing. And I know, and I'm gonna get the name wrong, but I know Surge has kind of like a formal partnership structure. And so we kind of talked about that formal partnership.
Right,
structure.
partnerships.
Yeah, and exactly, yeah. And so what it would look like for Ujima to be an action partner. And that was last year. So definitely, I think there are a few people in Surge we have some relationship with. So Susan Maymark and Tracy Bendel, and Jonathan Barry, I want to say what his name is, are the people we were having that conversation with last year that we're always welcome. We're always up for continuing, and whoever at Surge is interested in just continuing to flesh out that conversation. We're up for it. For
Maybe
sure.
I'll ask that it get put on the monthly chapter meeting for June. Maybe like the Ujima, like just to at least visit it, because there is so much going on now. But thank you for educating me on that.
Oh, no worries, and thank you, Anne. Thank you for sharing. So I think this wraps us up. Louise, is your hand up? Are you looking to say something?
Yeah, my concern is I have some racist neighbors and some people I know that are racist. It's how to get it through to them. You can get it that way. And I think as a white, I have to stop thinking like they have low wage jobs. I had a college educated job. And I'm a little better off than they do. So I have to think that I had a little more privilege than they did. I worked my way up. I used to be where they were, but now. So how can I talk to them about blacks getting this when I also have more than they do? I'm trying to figure that one out.
I think that's a perfect Surge conversation. So you got Anne. I don't know, is anybody else on here part of Surge? John? So you have some people you can tap about this, Louise. And then I saw Sierra, were you trying to get in there?
Yeah, I love what you just said, Louise. And I think that what it reminds me of is that me and I had a conversation like a couple months ago, like before all this started happening, about the right. And it was just like something very, very short. But I think that a lot of people right now feel like we are losing. And it's because, this has been a centuries long struggle, right? And so it's just like about staying involved and getting organized for real, because, at every level of every city, state, town, is that there's someone who is on the PTA, there's someone who is in the local chapters of, the Boys and Girls Club, like whatever level of the organization, there's always someone who is pushing their own values that might be counter to ours. And so it's really important, I think, for me to say right now that, even if you like don't live in Boston, or like you have family that like live outside of the city, making sure that, even if they only have like an hour a month to go to like local events and things like that, like it's really important, because those are where a lot of decisions get made. And where a lot of people who, again, like their values might be counter to ours are, spreading their influence, to be quite honest. And so it's making sure that we're just as organized at every level. And Boston Dream Project is one of those places, but, even if, you don't, or your family doesn't live here, like there are so many others. And ultimately, like, it's about creating the culture. Secondly, it's about creating the culture that we want to have, you know, in our daily lives, at every level. I think that sometimes we forget our power, you know, in those small moments, and it's not simply just about, you know, the legacy of racism, but like the small ways that we see lives be dehumanized, whether that's being stalked, you know, throughout stores and on the street, you know, to like the larger, you know, issues that we're seeing now. So yeah, you know, just encouraging people to show up in small and large ways.
Thank you, Sierra. I think I saw Alexander.
Yeah, just a quick comment also to Luis, because I think a lot about this too, about, you know, what could you do to change people's minds? And my answer might sound cynical, but it's not a cynical advice on this. I don't think it's worth trying to change their minds. I don't think like beating the racism out of somebody is really like a worthwhile endeavor. It's not going to get very far, and we can't legislate it out of them. But I think focusing on how to operate in ways like solidarity economy or other ways that kind of make their racist sentiments really minimized in their damage. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you're not going to, I could argue with someone about race. What's it going to do? But if we're smart in how we set society up, those sentiments just won't do very much. They can kind of go like this, but you just create a structure, new structures around them. So it's like you can be all racist by yourself in your ineffective way, while we restructure things to make sure it stays that way. Maybe eventually they'll go, oh, I want to participate in society with people, and then like stop being that way. But until then, I don't think for Luis, you know, whoever it is, getting into a tit for tat about their racism, kind of for me, isn't it? But structuring things and strategizing so that when they go want to use their racism somewhere, it doesn't have anywhere to go, which I think in some sense is what we're doing here too. That's all.
You, Alexander. Louise?
Yeah.
And then
I kind of think is my concern is I came from the lower class whites on the wrong side of the track, and I feel I've got resentment that there is a lot of bigotry in whites against the lower class whites, and some of the lower class whites are fighting back. That's what Trump looks like he's fighting back against the so-called elites, and so I sometimes have that the lower classes kind of look down. We have to look at not just the race, look at their needs and how maybe we've got more privilege at the expense of them.
If I could be able to speak, Luis, I really appreciate your perspective and everyone's perspective that they've shared so far. And I think these conversations are great, maybe for Serge and posted about white people challenging racism, but I'm really interested and very impressed with the Boston Ujima project and how much collaboration they do. So I'm very interested to see what else is on the agenda for tonight. But I do appreciate what everyone has said. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel, and thank you, Louise. And so, yeah, appreciate that. We do have to transition into the next part of our meeting, which is the member teams. Am noting, I don't know if you've seen this yet, Louise, but Ann did drop a session into the chat happening July 11th through the 25th in online, but Cambridge Center for Adult Education. So I don't know if you want to take note of that, Louise, www.ccae.org, and look them up and see if you think that you will get some guidance there. But as I understand it, this is what Serge works on. So Serge works on how to talk with other white people about racism. And as I understand, Serge also has to consider how class, which is what I hear you talking about, Louise, impacts those conversations as well. All right, excellent. So let's transition. As I said, we have two teams that are slated to meet tonight, our Arts and Cultural Organizing team. And Louise, do you, Anne or Louise, why don't one of you email each other privately an email address so that you can get in contact with each other. If you do it in this chat, it's gonna show up on the recording. So I just don't know if you want your email on the recording. Bye, Kelsey, thank you. on YouTube, but so that you can get information from Ann. Yeah, okay. So who is here? And I'm gonna stop the recording. How about that? Because we're